How we doing, everyone? I'm Dusty. I got Chris and Tony, and I got our buddies Pat and Aaron McKenzie on. How you guys doing?
Pretty
Pretty
good.
good, pretty good.
They got a nice
Don't
little
tell me.
setup outside there. Hear the birds chirping in the background.
Yeah.
Couldn't have drawn it up any better myself.
Yep.
Right on. So, how you guys feeling about off-season stuff? You guys feeling pretty good with some of the moves we made? Zach Moss, Mike Gesicki, getting Trent Brown. You feel like the boys are moving in the right direction?
I definitely do. I think, like, the one thing that I struggle with moving on from Mixon, I love the fact that weren't many turnovers with him, and that'll be, plus he catches so well out of the backfield, but you definitely start to lack the explosive plays. I think that's where I'm hoping where Zach Moss, combined with Chris Brown, I hope that'll what
Chase Brown.
Chase Brown.
Kurt, yeah, I messed up his name. All right, man, that should hopefully that's a dynamic, 1-2 punch there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like that mixture of the two. And yeah, Chris Brown, Chase Brown. I mean, we do like some Chris Breezy up on the show. Maybe he'll do a song for us as our intro. But no, I agree with it. You guys got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, like, to your point, right? A little bit more of explosiveness. I think the key thing, besides the turnovers with Mixon, was just the durability, right? I mean, we got all 17 games out of him last season. I hope to see more of that, but I think Zach Moss is going to bring a little bit more pass blocking to the table. So something to look out for, something to look forward to.
Yeah, I think the Zach Moss pickup is literally save a couple million, get a guy that's probably around the same, maybe a little better fit for the offense, and go from there. I mean, we get a couple more of these guys that we're saving a couple $1,000,000 here, saving a couple $1,000,000 there. That adds up. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the numbers come out for the Trent Brown deal, but I think it's up to like 4.75 million or something around there, which is like the max that he can earn this year. And
Drew
I think
Sample getting paid more.
Yeah, I mean his AAV is, Drew Sample's 3 point whatever a year, and Trent Brown's 4.75 for this year. But Sample's getting all of his cash up front, I think 4.9, something like that. But I mean, Zach Moss, save a couple million there. Trent Brown, save a couple million there. I would argue that Geno Stone deal, you probably saved a couple million over getting one of the, 10, 11, $12 million a year guys, up and coming guy, kind of the guys that the Bengals like to target. They've got Cheeto was on a similar deal. I think his was like 3 years, $7 million a year, something like that. So hopefully, these deals can work out and add up to something big.
Yep.
I mean, to me, it's preparatory, if anything, or, restructuring of some sort to anticipate deals coming down the line. I think we're all aware of Jamar Chase's deal probably coming up, right? If anything, coming out of the draft, we'll see where we're at. But hopefully, all of these little, to your point, Chris, these chip away moves that they're making to really restructure their finances, hopefully that puts them in a scenario where they could pay a T. Higgins, or they could move him and make a really big splash with a proven veteran, right? I like seeing budget cuts where they need to be if we're getting a really good player out of it. But if there comes a point where you're going to get diminishing returns with these budget cut kind of moves, where they're going to have to bite the bullet on a player or two. And to me, at least at face value, to me, that's T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But that's just my opinion. And I think a lot of people, Cincinnati fans, are going to have a huge differing opinion on what we should and shouldn't do on that money.
Ultimately, that's what I would like to see, is somehow getting a deal with, done with T. Higgins, because I think the worst case scenario is him playing under a franchise tag this year. So I'm hoping somehow to your point, Chris, that a couple million here, a couple million there, and it starts adding up to where we can put together something for T as well.
Yeah.
They put money aside for Jamar.
I have just gone on rants about how I'm just so frustrated with David Mulugeta as an agent, and like I
Yeah.
touch on that all the time.
Oh yeah.
I feel like anytime T. Higgins is mentioned, I'm like, I'm like that cartoon meme, like Mulugeta. Like he just frustrates me so much, and I understand you want to get your guys paid, and you want to get, top of the market money, and you want to reset the position and all this kind of stuff. That's all well and good, but there's value to like living in the Midwest. It's cheap to live here. There's value in being in a winning organization. There's value in having continuity with the same quarterback and, largely the same offense that you've had for, 4 years of your career. So I think that there's a lot of value that would be missed out from T. Higgins' side if he did decide, oh yeah, I need to get 25 million a year instead of the 23 million over 4 the Bengals are offering, or whatever the case would be. But then again, it's easy for me to say that from down here,
Right.
not saying, oh yeah, I'd sacrifice $2 million a year, because at the end of the day, that's still $2 million, So I'll probably just say it again and again and again every time I hear T. Higgins. Every time I want him to be a Bengal. I like the Bengals love wide receivers. Historically, they've paid wide receivers, they've drafted wide receivers well, and they've kept their guys around. And like that's always led to kind of like iconic duos. So if we can hang on to this one for a little longer, that would be great.
Yeah, because the numbers point out, I think, like with all the injuries, especially with T. Higgins this past year, the numbers really show how effective the offense is when both of them, T. Higgins and Jamar, are in the lineup and when one of them is missing. And it's like numbers are a lot better. So if we can find a way to keep him, that would be huge.
I just don't want there to be a scenario where we do a Jesse Bates all over again on a premier player. We get nothing out of it, right? And then they go to another team like the Falcons, or T. Higgins goes to like the Chargers, for example, right? Balls out, gets a ton of money, and everyone looks at us like we're stupid, right? I mean, Jesse Bates is an all-pro safety now. I would argue top 3 in the league. We knew that coming out of the Cincinnati Bengals days with him, but at the end of the day, it was all about money. I think there comes a point where you got to throw the money aside and say, listen, we're not going to get the value out of the draft. We're not going to get the value out of a comp pick. We're not going to get the draft. We're not going to get the value back for a long time, right? So at the end of the day, is it worth $2 or $3 million, or in most cases with Cincinnati, the guaranteed money, right? That's the big hitch point we all see out of Cincinnati. If they can get that figured out with this agent, who, quite frankly, none of us really like,
right?
I think it would be beneficial in the long run, anyways.
Yeah, I think the hard thing about that is, I can't remember if it was when me and Dusty were on a couple days ago, Tony, or when the last time all 3 of us were on. But I said the way that the taking less thing works is, I think there was a hockey team a handful of years ago. One of the main players said it only works if everybody does it. So like, I think the issue with what you're talking about is one of these days you just got to bite the bullet and, give out the extra money. The issue with that is if one guy does that, now you almost have to pay everybody, because now the next guy that comes up to get paid says, well, wait a minute, you guys didn't ask him to take less. So there's like a give and a take there, where there's got to be a complete buy-in from a full group of players, which I think you probably could have from like Burrow, Chase, Higgins, like that kind of a core, to where each guy takes, a couple million less a year or whatever. But all this stuff is just, it's super tough.
Everything, every other team makes it work, right? Like somehow they find a way, maybe not every other team, but there's a lot of teams that find a way to keep their star guys. So It's just what do the Bengals want? How do they? You know, they're not going to value safety. They just don't
Yeah.
value safety. They don't value tight ends. There's certain positions in which I agree with. And from the reports that I read, they were close with Jesse Bates. They were close with the number was close. The guarantee was not.
Yeah.
So the Bengals just have to get over that hump of spending the guarantee money. If somebody's worth it, they're worth it. You know, you don't give away your stars. What did Duke say last year? You know, we're not in the business making other teams better. Find your own wide receiver. Okay, when you scout somebody and you find a damn elite player, guess what? Don't let that elite player leave. Like that's what the Bengals were always good about, was getting talent, raising that talent up, and re-signing their own guys. So let's keep that old method. When we do have somebody worth the money, let's raise them up right and keep them in our system. And I know we thought Jermaine Pratt was going to be a guy we was going to lose. Jermaine Pratt came back. Logan Wilson came back. Even the other linebacker, Davis Gaither, he's back again, which everybody loved Davis Gaither coming out of the draft. So getting him, the price we're paying him, some people think it's a little steep. I think he's great value. So I'm happy with the guys we've re-signed. We have. It'd be really nice with the money that we have right now to try to do something with T, man. Get him on the books. He's elite. I don't care what anybody says. Name 12 receivers better than T Higgins. I just, you're going to argue that 10th, 11th, 12th spot. I think there's an argument for it. And the team, I think one of you guys, I caught a little bit of it, but my computer I was having some internet problems, but yeah, he makes the team better. So that's my thoughts. I'd love to keep T, man. And that's what that's offense is known for, is our receivers and our quarterback and Joe making it happen. In the draft, they just have to hit. We can't have a 2021 year where we draft, I don't know, 5 linemen and not a single one of them pan out. We have to hit on a couple, and that's going to determine our future.
I mean, if nothing else, the longer that they wait, the worse it gets, right? The longer they go through, we saw Michael Pittman get a deal. We saw what's his face in Tampa Bay, Mike Evans get a deal. We saw Keenan Allen get a deal from the Bears. Like, these are all kind of in line with what I think T Higgins is, that fringe tier 1, tier 2 receiver, but they're getting big money, right? Especially Michael Pittman, he got big money. So the longer that they wait and the longer they drag this tag out, it works against them, in my opinion.
But Pittman got 23 million. I don't think that's all crazy, man. Like,
but that's what T's worth, in my opinion. I think right around that 21 to 23 is where he should be at. But the problem is they can leverage those deals and say, well, I think T is a little bit better than Michael Pittman is.
I think he is better.
I would say that the issue is, I don't think that they're asking for 21 to 23. I would say that the Bengals are probably close to 21 a year. Like, if I had to guess myself. But I would say that Mulugeta is asking for over 25 a year.
I would say
So, like,
27 is my guess.
I would say
27 is egregious.
I agree with that. But I think that, like, his argument will be, oh, well, you see where the landscape is going, and you guys agree that T is a top 15 talent in the league. And, like, if he's top 15, then he's going to need to be top 5 paid this year, because the next 2 or 3 years, there's going to be 10 guys that pass him. So there's just a lot of, like, stupid money arguments that they make with, like, oh, well, this guy's going to pass and this guy's going to pass. And, like, I don't care about what's going to happen in 2 years. If you want a contract in 2 years, then take a 1-year contract every year. You know, like, there's a guy that's kind of hated for it, right? You know, in baseball, Trevor Bauer has kind of made himself into a supervillain, but one of his big things was, like, I will take a 1-year contract every year for a giant number, and I am confident. He's basically betting on himself. So, like, he plays super well. Guess what? He gets another fat contract the next season. If he plays like crap, or if he misses half the year with an injury, then his earning potential goes down. So I just think that, especially with T's injury history, like, there's no way for the Bengals to say, all right, well, if you miss 8 games, if you ever miss half a year, then we'll take $5 million off of your contract for that year. No player or no agent will ever advocate for that. So like the issue is, okay, you want the high number annually, you want the high guarantees, that's great. But you have to be willing to take the same if you're saying my potential's here, okay, so if we're paying you at your potential but you don't hit your potential, then what happens? So I think that's where the contract and the money stuff all like comes down for me. But
Speaking of baseball, the Reds got that win today. I don't know if you guys follow them too much, but they got the dub. But since we got Pat McKenzie on, Pat and Aaron McKenzie, but let's talk some Ring of Honor if you guys want, because you guys got a vote. You get your votes are in, or votes aren't in yet, but you voted the past. So who did you guys vote for last year?
Did we vote for me?
Yeah, they forget.
I voted for, because we split our votes. So I'm usually, being older, I'm going to go old school.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think you voted for Chad Johnson.
I think I did too.
But I know I voted for Boomer.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. I agree. I like both those votes because Chad's kind of our era, brought the Bengals back to relevance a little bit. Between him, Corey Dillon, and Carson Palmer. Might feel a little different about Palmer's departure and different things, but they did bring us back to relevance, so that was nice.
Greatest celebrator in the game.
Yeah, gave him edgy. He had that edginess to him.
I would have
conservative team historically, so he's probably the first player that stepped out and did some of the celebrations and different things like that.
I agree. So I'll pull up this year's so we can see who we can possibly vote for. Well, who you guys can vote for.
So, Pat, while Dusty's pulling this up, why don't you tell us a little bit about, how long you've been season ticket holder, how long you've been a Bengals fan, what are some of your favorite memories, a little couple things like that.
As far like season tickets, we haven't been season ticket holders for too long. This will be our 4th year coming up. So I actually feel like I got lucky. I feel like the Bengals historically, you can kind of see when something is starting to click. I remember in the early 80s under Forrest Gregg, we played Cleveland last game of the season in 1980. It's like Bengals had nothing to play for in that game, but the Browns needed to win that game for a home playoff game. And the Bengals had a player, Pat McInally, get knocked out of the game and taken out on an ambulance, and still came back in the second half and played in that game. Now, we came up short, but here's a team just playing to go home, and then here's a team playing for a home playoff game. And it was one of them scenarios where you're like, well, when we're healthy next year, I don't think anybody's going to want to mess with us. And that scenario, I feel like it was playing out in Joe Burrow's rookie season. It's like I thought under Zach Taylor, things starting to come together. We were showing some good things. And that's kind of what prompted me to get season tickets. I'm like, I think the Bengals have 4 or 5 wins only that season, but they had some really good wins, mainly that Monday night against Pittsburgh. So you're like, I'm seeing something here. And now I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I predicted they were going to go to the Super Bowl the next year. But when everything came together, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. That season, man, when we got Joe Burrow, and just you could see the wheels kind of turning with the team a little bit, with T and the passing of the torch with AJ Green. And it was like, well, they might be a couple pieces away. Obviously, have to fix that O-line. We're still talking about the O-line to this day, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know if anybody really expected what 2021 was going to be. Maybe Jamar Chase and Joe might have had their expectations there, but I think as fans we would have been happy making a little playoff run, but not. I don't think too many of us expected what we did.
No, yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Can you guys remember a game? Aaron, what's your favorite game in recent years? Can you think of any that stand out that you was at? Maybe a playoff game, maybe just a game atmosphere in general, like the Bills. I know that's where we linked up was the Bills win.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that Bengals Raiders game in the playoff game, our first win to end that drought. As far as an atmosphere, though, I really felt it that Bills game where we were together when, unfortunately Damar Hamlin went down. That was something else, I feel like. And there's been a couple close runners up recently with the whole Stripe the Jungle. That was pretty intense. That was pretty cool. I could tell you a play that sticks out in my head, though, and it's the first clicking moment with Jamar and Joe against the Vikings, the first game of the year a couple years back, Jamar's rookie year. I think my dad actually either went to the bathroom or got us some refills on some beer or something, and he missed it.
No.
Touchdown, as a Bengal. And usually when they score, you give a yeah or you give a woo. I just screamed. Like, I don't know if there was like an English word that came out of my mouth. I just screamed. That was something else. That sticks out for sure.
Yeah, those are some good ones right there, man. And like you said, that Bills game, that was wild. That was so much fun. I wish I could have been at Stripe the Jungle. That was way better. I don't know about you guys, but it looked way cooler on TV than what I expected it was going to look. It looked amazing.
Dude, it was wild. We were all there. Remember that? And it was awesome, man. Like, it had that playoff atmosphere too, and that whole time, just the way they played, the energy they played with, man. Like, you just knew they were gonna win. Now, did they try to give it up a little bit? Yeah, a little bit. But at the end of the day, man, like, you couldn't beat that atmosphere.
I agree. So I have the players up now, so I will pull these guys up and then maybe give me some thoughts on who you guys will vote for. I know if I had the option to vote, I think my vote would be Corey Dillon, just because Corey Dillon's probably, between him and Chad Johnson, the reason I'm a Bengals fan. Everything about Corey, the way he played, it was just so fun. Everybody knew Corey's running the ball, and that didn't matter. You just wasn't stopping him. It was amazing to see a guy like that play. And then I think I might, if I had the vote, it would be probably Dave Lapham. Just been in the Bengals organization for decades, just supporting them, playing hard. In his podcast, his the radio, it's a lot. It's awesome. So I think those two. I mean, everybody knows Dave Lapham is Mr. Bengal, so he is definitely those two would definitely be my votes. I can scroll through it a little more. Darce says 100% Corey and Dave. That would be mine, but everyone gets their own votes, and I'm interested to hear if anybody sticks out to you, what you guys like. You can tell me to stop or keep going. So that's it.
For me, I'm going to go ahead and go with Tim Frumry, because that is very rare to see a nose guard. And back in the late 80s, they played those 3-4 defenses. So the nose guard, it's just you're there with the center and two guards. And I've never seen somebody make a difference like sideline to sideline like he could do. I mean, that guy was something else. And
yeah, that would be.
I agree with what you say about Dave Lapham, though. I know he has to come up here pretty soon, because I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. I used to go into the garage so I could get in 700 WLW to listen to the Bengal games. And back then, Dave Lapham was doing the games. It's like he's been doing this for forever.
What about you, Aaron? You want me to scroll back through these real quick, or do you have a guy picked out?
I'm juggling between Dave and Corey right now. Corey Dillon. Just
Who
like
was the first one?
what'd you say?
Who was the first one you said?
Dave Lapham.
Okay, so you're right there.
Yeah, it's hard to not vote for him, man.
Yeah, I agree. What about, I know Chris and Tony and me, we don't have any votes, but if you guys did, who would you choose?
I mean, for me, right away, it's Corey Dillon. Right? It's kind of a no brainer because that was like the first few years as a young kid that I started watching Cincinnati, and being that guy that was just prolific running the ball. I think Dave Lapham is another one for me. It's hard, right? Because I'm a younger cat, right? So some of these older guys, I didn't get a chance to see them play, even though they're phenomenal players. It's kind of like that recency bias thing, right? So Corey Dillon, just like you said, Dusty, was kind of one of my first like real Bengals that I followed outside of like the Carson Palmer era. So that would be my vote.
Yeah, I'd say that Corey Dillon obviously is in the running. For me, I think that Dave Lapham would get very strong consideration because similar to what Chad Johnson does for the Bengals fan base, like Dave's just been around. Like as good as a football player he has been with the organization. Like you don't hear a broadcaster that like loves the team the way that Dave Lapham loves the team. And like when you're listening to him on the radio and, oh yeah, he's going to go, you can hear it. Like the voice gets high and he just loves this team. Like he's a fan, like talking about it. You know what I mean? I think that's something that you see from a lot of media people that are like, oh yeah, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't like the team, whatever. Why not? He's just as invested as we are, and he's done so much for the team over the years, for so many years. And I think that I think I might have just talked myself into him over Corey Dillon. So I mean, like, I think Dave Lapham or Corey Dillon would probably take my vote.
So my thing with it is I really wish we'd started out with like 3 to 4 players and done that for the first maybe 5 years, because like you said, Chris, there's so many guys, or it might have been Tony that said it, that we didn't get to watch, and we know the names, but we didn't get the experience like Pat did. When he's talking about Crumry, it's just like that. It's just a different feel when you can watch it just real time and not, hear about it and see highlights of it or reruns. It just makes it a little different. But when you have some of the guys that have been around for a little longer, it'd be nice to get them in, and I think they deserve to be in. And you never want to forget your history and where you're a part of. I'm glad the Bengals finally did this because it's a long time coming, and they're making up for it by doing it. But I think having 3 to 4, maybe even 5, the first 3 years would have been really nice to have done. 5 might be a lot, but maybe the first year 5, and then back to down to 3, and then once you get caught up a little bit, do the 2. How do you guys feel about that, Pat and Aaron?
I agree, because here would be my point. Like if I'm gonna look at a Ring of Honor, like who really made like that big an impact in the game? Like you really had to watch out for this guy. And through the history, there's quite a few of them. As we're scrolling through that list, I can make arguments for other ones. We at that time in the late '80s, there had never been a safety like David Fulcher. It's like here's a guy that can move. He's going to come up and hit you, and it's like those are impact players. If you're going to make an offensive game plan, you want to know where he's at. And I'm thinking people I don't even see on that list. Like what comes to mind is like Pete Johnson. I mean, that for his era, that dude was huge, and he could catch, he could run, and I think I do agree, because I think Boomer Esiason has like the same attitude you have, Dusty, where he's like about time with this because we're behind, and there's a lot of older, a lot of older people. All right, now I just saw Reggie Williams. That would be another one. he played in their first 2 Super Bowls. And it's like he was another impact player. Very, very intelligent player. He could blitz, he could stop the run. And I do feel like they are a little bit behind in this. That's why it gets hard to pick 2 people.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So if you had to choose kind of that era of players back in the 80s, who would maybe be three guys to point out that may be lesser known, but for newer, because I know we got a lot of new Bengals fans with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and maybe they're listening to it and they want to get caught up on some history of the Bengals, or you might have some guys like us that are 90s babies that heard of the big names, but not some of the guys that played maybe nitty gritty roles, but they had significant impacts for the team, but don't often get the recognition they deserve. Can you think of anyone, Pat?
Yeah, I could
Put
think
me on the spot.
a couple in the later 80s in their Super Bowl 23 year, for example. I think it was Chris bringing up like the duo of receivers. Well, we had 2 good receivers on that team with Eddie Brown and Tim McGee. And then I don't feel like a lot of people, talk about them anymore. And also historically, like Paul Brown always liked like the bigger running backs, bigger teams on the field. So the Bengals always had a good tight end. Also, I remember Rodney Holman was a big part of the '88 team, and I think even if you go back into the '81, the earlier, going back even further in the '80s, like Chris Collinsworth was a rookie, but then he's paired with Isaac Curtis, who was a wily old veteran, and then I don't think this record still stands, but the person that had the most catches in a Super Bowl was Dan Ross, who was our tight end on that first Super Bowl team. And I think that record has been broken since then, but I mean, that was Super Bowl 16, right?
Do you remember what the number was?
It was double digits. I want to say it was 12. I would have to look that up, though.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The game all dictates things, because we did fall behind in that game. In the first Super Bowl, we were losing 20-0 at halftime. So I know that dictated a lot of the throwing in the second half. But, those are just a few people offensively that stick out in my head.
Okay. You got a couple defensive guys that you want to throw out there?
Defensively, like if I'm going to go back to the earlier part of the 80s, one of my favorite players was always Jim LeClaire. Played middle linebacker, late 70s into the early 80s. He was on that first Super Bowl team. And let's see, of course you can't not mention Ken Riley, who, was on that first Super Bowl team. But then I always feel like some of our defensive ends, were underrated. Like we had Ross Browner, Eddie Edwards in that first Super Bowl. And it's like those were 2, because we're losing 20-0 against the 49ers in Super Bowl 16, and they only won that game 26-21. So defensively, we shut them down in the second half. So that was a good defense. And then in the later 80s, I would say I'm trying to think. Obviously, we had Tim Krumrie. And Reggie Williams played on both of those Super Bowl teams. As far as safeties, obviously, David Fulcher. But I think in '88, I think they were more of a good group, But I think it was Tim Krumrie that anchored all that. I would say Tim Krumrie and David Fulcher.
So, special teams, we got Jim Breach. What was it like seeing a guy like that just kicking and being accurate? I think the Bengals have had some pretty good kickers, especially Evan McPherson coming in very clutch for us. What was it like seeing a guy like Jim Breach?
Yeah, he talked about like Mr. Automatic. It's like I'm trying to think of. I can't remember if he played. I don't think he played in the first Super Bowl. I know he played. Obviously, he played on the '88 team. But it's like, man, what a clutch! It's hard to. I mean, how can you devalue that after seeing what we went through with McPherson? It's like,
Yeah.
man, that comes in. I mean, who walks on? I don't mean to take away from Jim Breach talking about Evan McPherson, but I mean, who walks onto the field saying, "Well, looks like we're going to the championship game."
Yeah,
quietly had that kind of confidence.
yeah, that is I'm so superstitious, man. I would have to find some wood to knock on. I'd be like, okay, that was funny and it was cool, but somebody get me a broomstick or something. I got to knock on some wood.
Yeah, I hope nobody got that on camera.
yeah. Hopefully the internet does not hold this against me for a while. No.
Dude, I heard that. I was like, that is wild, but so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I'm
It
ballsy.
was a fairly long field goal.
Yeah, I think it was 49. I think it was
Yeah.
49. I
High
could be wrong.
40s for sure.
Yeah, that's not an easy kick in that situation. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I'm just like, let me get out here and just do this. I don't want to think of anything else but that. I mean, he during the Super Bowl, he hung out and watched the halftime performance and enjoyed himself. That Evan, we just got a cool group of guys right now, man. This kind of young group where might say we're cocky, like some of the players are cocky and stuff, but I just think they're having fun, and I don't think they really speak out of pocket with what they say. I think they mean what they say and they back it up. When Jamar, I don't know if you guys remember what he said, I'm going to break every Bengals record. And, I was like, we've had some really good wide receivers here in Cincy, buddy. Like, I think you're going to be great too, but let's see how you do when you get on the field. The NFL is a little different animal, in which we all had high hopes for him, but man, he came out and he showed it. That was impressive.
And to
I just
think
like
back
how he.
to- Go ahead, Tony.
Chris. No, I was going to say I like how he called the Browns the elves. That made me laugh so hard.
Well, he's had so many great like funny media comments and like the comments like that. Oh, I'm gonna break every record. Like the balls that it takes to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coming into like a lot of people have a lot to say about the Bengals franchise, but if there's one thing you can't fault is that like the Bengals love wide receivers. You know what I mean? Like going all the way back to the 90s, and then even just the 2000 and later guys, Chad Johnson, TJ Hushmanzada, the AJ Green, all of these guys that are getting drafted, and even like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, like
Mo Sanu, Marvin Jones, late round guys.
So you got all these guys coming in, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna break every record." Like that's a ballsy thing to say, but he's been able to come in and back it up, and for them, he perfectly toes the line in my opinion between like humbleness and confidence, where it's not like over the top super cocky, but like you gotta like it. Like Darth Bengal says, like it's that swagger. It's like it's just different with him. Like when he says it, you can tell that he's like able to like joke about stuff that a lot of people take seriously, whatever. And to think back to his rookie year when we were all like, oh my gosh, Jamar can't catch an NFL football. It's crazy. What have these white stripes done to him? Like thinking back on that now after all he's accomplished in his first couple of years is like, it's just crazy talk. So
yeah, it's funny because I remember just being like, oh my gosh, dude, this guy is dropping these balls. And I remember getting a little nervous. I was like, just you gotta trust him. What he did in college was even when he had Justin Jefferson there, he still. I just started watching him because of Jamar Chase or because Joe Burrow, and I'm like, all right, like Joe from Ohio State and stuff from Ohio, possibly the number 1 overall pick, Heisman runner. And start watching him. I'm like, dude, who's this Jamar kid? Everyone's talking about Justin Jefferson. I was like, who is this? Well, it made sense because he wasn't coming out in that year's draft class. So whatever, but I was very impressed with Jamar, morely so that I was Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson's a great receiver. He's top 1, 2, 3. Take your pick of where he's at, but that's where seeing what Justin Jefferson did in the league that year, that Ja'Marr sat out because of COVID and stuff, it made me definitely trust us taking Ja'Marr, wanting him. But who do you guys think's the funniest player on the team? This is something we haven't discussed, but just thinking of people that are low key funny, I think of maybe BJ Hill. Just BJ Hill, just the way he kind of talks and like it's like kind of sly, I think BJ Hill could low key be really funny. Ja'Marr is obviously just funny with some of his comments where I think he just tries to stir people up and he kind of trolls. I think Ja'Marr might be the biggest troller on the team. But Sheldon Rankins, if you guys seen his press conference, his press, he was funny, dude. Like he was confident. He kind of had that same confidence to him, and he was kind of funny with the stuff he said. I'll let Pat and Aaron go. Who do you guys think's the funniest, or a couple Bengals that would just be fun to hang out with, get a beer, and just hear them bullshit a little bit? I don't know if my computer screen's doing this to you guys, but it keeps freezing. So I'm going to hop out for a second, and then I'll let you guys finish this conversation. I'll hop right back in, okay?
I mean, I think BJ Hill is absolutely hilarious. Exactly for the reasons what he just said. You see videos of him on, the Bengals social media page, messing around with people, always like, crawling on the ground, doing all this type of weird stuff. He's never too afraid to be himself, and that's what I like about him.
I would definitely like one of the things, if you're talking about like people to hang out and have a beer with, one of the things that struck me that I kind of like about Ja'Marr Chase, even the Bengals didn't make the playoffs, so you would think, okay, that's a little humbling or whatever. He flat out still goes after the Kansas City Chiefs. He's like, that's who I'm rooting against, Kansas City. And it's like it cracked me up, because talk about a guy that's going to keep that rivalry going. And it's like I found that kind of funny. And it's like I kind of love, because he does back things up when he gets into the big games. There's a particular game I'm trying to think of, and he was kind of questionable as whether or not he's going to play, and he started talking trash, but he made sure he played. Now that was toward the end of this past year, and I'll be damned, I can't remember who it was, but he played and he had a good game, and it's like, so I love that about him. And it's like, but I did think that was kind of funny. He goes right after Kansas City.
And I think one of the things that makes that fun too is like we're so used to guys like players in this last 5, 6, 7, 8 years that are like they're almost like trained for all the other players to be their friends now. Like there used to be an animosity where like you would hear like Chicago players and Green Bay players like would hate each other, and they would be like, yeah, I'm like, I don't like any of these guys, when it comes to football, whatever. And we want to embarrass them. And, we want to do all this. Now all the players are like, well, they're great guys over there. They're great players over there, whatever, which is fine. Like it is what it is. Everybody wants to, do the Jackie Moon, from whatever movie that was, ELE, everybody love everybody.
Yeah.
But Ja'Marr is like, he keeps that competitive fire going. Like you said, he keeps that rivalry, just stoking the flames a little bit in a way that's not like, he's not actually hurting anybody's feelings. Like the guys that he's jawing with, it's like, that's the banter you want. That's the like rivalry where the dudes aren't going to go try to fight each other in the Walmart parking lot or anything like that. But you definitely know on game day that they're not like, they didn't have lunch, before the game or anything like that. So I love that kind of stuff. I think Ja'Marr and BJ Hill are two of the funnier guys. One of the reasons I love BJ Hill is because he just roasts Jermaine Pratt like all the time on Twitter. Like there was like a solid 6-month span where he was talking about like he was posting these pictures where like he was the baby in the rocking the baby thing, and he was posting pictures of like him photoshopped as a bald guy and stuff like that. Like there was a lot of just really funny things that BJ Hill did, kind of like roasting Jermaine Pratt, which like I love that one. Dude's, two defensive guys, obviously both have a good sense of humor. They're messing around with each other. You love to see that kind of chemistry on the team, because when dudes have chemistry like that, they just play better together because they know where the other one's going to be. They don't have to like treat it as much of a business and a job. They're just out there doing what they love, and like that stuff is all just great.
Well, if you remember, what was the bet they had where Jermaine Pratt, obviously he's bald, BJ Hill had to shave his head for something, and he actually followed through with it. What was the bet, Dusty? Do you know?
I think it was if somebody like signed back with the team or something, like if Jermaine Pratt came back to the Bengals,
Yeah.
something like that. Because if I remember correctly, it was right around.
Yeah. It was hilarious. And then you saw BJ Hill bald. I mean, like, I don't know. He's probably the funniest guy on the team. I think Ted Karras is pretty funny as well. Like, he's a funny guy where you would just like to hang out with him. Jamar, back to your point, Chris, like, I think it's all fun and games with the exception of Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think that's probably the only guy in the NFL that I can truly see them getting down and fighting on the field. But that's just me.
I mean, when you got a meme of you just flipping a double bird, that
iconic picture. Iconic.
Incredible.
Yeah, I need to get that.
I need it framed like 36 by 36 in my office.
Yeah. We got to get Jamar to like sign that or something like that. Just get a giant one posted up, and
it's just think how funny that is though. Like seriously, scores on a student that just turns and flips on the bird and just runs off. Like I've never seen anything like that ever, and it's surprising that he didn't get 3 games, just something stupid out of it. But
it was just a fine. That's all he got.
Yeah. But still, I mean, that's a pretty wild thing to do. So how much more time you guys got? We got 47 minutes. I'm cool with staying on and talking as long as you guys want to talk. I have a few more questions. So if you guys have to get off here at any time soon, just let us know. But if you want to stay on a little longer, we can keep rolling.
Yeah, we can keep rolling.
Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
You're good? They just did a scene change, so we're ready for Act 2.
We can't see each other.
Is this in the background? Is that Aaron's all of his football collage of his accolades?
That's Notre Dame. No, that ain't me.
Hey, go Irish, baby, go Irish!
So, if you guys don't know, Aaron went to school with everyone's favorite player and played. I believe you played with him, didn't you?
Yeah. He graduated the year below me.
Yeah. What was that?
You're talking about Jack Carmen, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He graduated the year below me. I played with him at Fairfield.
Yeah. Did you ever light him up?
No, he got me one time. We did a period of inside zone run. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's just like a period of practice where you practice your inside zone and your run plays and stuff like that. No passes or anything like that. And I was a linebacker. He's on the far side, and he was pulling, and I didn't catch it in time, and he got me pretty good. But
hey, they don't call him Jack the Giant for nothing.
Yeah, I took it till I popped right back up.
If you don't know Mackenzie, Aaron's a pretty good sized dude. He's how tall are you? About 6'1", 6'2"?
6'1".
Yeah, like he's not a little guy, so I was hoping maybe he got a lick in or two, but he got it the other way.
Hey, 6'2", 230 is a long way off of 6'6", 285, 266, 290. So
I was giving my boy the benefit of the doubt, man. I was just trying to help him out some.
He's got 60 pounds of heart at least.
Look at now he's standing a little more straight chest.
Look at him.
Yeah, let's broaden up them shoulders.
It's like, well, 6'1" is I think it's more like 6'2".
Yeah. In an eighth.
That's what they were doing. They didn't actually need to go inside for the light. They just wanted to. He was like, "Dad, I think this angle makes me look a little small, so I got to."
Well, I was gonna say earlier in the stream, I was like, the camera's making you look pretty big, man.
You gotta stop it. Stop it.
Catch you later, Darth. Darth says who day. I'll catch you guys the rest of the show later on, man. We
Yeah.
appreciate you, Darth. Darth always tunes in. He's great. He's always giving us feedback. We love you, buddy. He does some really awesome work as well. With he makes those Bengals, I don't know what you want to call it, the necklace chains. They're really awesome. He does some really cool stuff. He's done a lot of giveaways with them. Helped raise a lot of people different money. So he's awesome. We love you, Darth. Appreciate you tuning in, buddy. So we all tailgate together. We all have a good bit of fun. We know Pat likes his Miller Lights, and Mackenzie will drink anything he gets his hands on. He's like a fish. But if you could choose one Bengal to have some beers with, who do you think would drink the most beers, and who do you think would be the most fun?
Most beers.
I bet Tyler Hudson can slam some beers. I don't know. I just got that feeling.
You say T. Huddy?
Tanner Hudson. I'm sorry.
We're messing up first names.
Hey, tight end room is always a good place to go for who's drinking the beers.
There you
Yeah.
go.
We have to take this moment to give a shout out to when the reporter asked Tyler Eifert, if your mullet could talk, what would it say? And his answer was, throw me a Miller Lite.
Hey, when he did the Stone Cold celebration, bro. Bah, bah.
Yeah, that was cool.
He's a dude, man.
Stayed healthy. Whew.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's
13
Tyler
Teddy
Eifert is
Power.
part of the reason that I'm so excited about Brock Bowers. If for you guys, Pat and Aaron, I am a huge Brock Bowers guy just because I remember what Tyler Eifert did to change the way that the offense looked and all that stuff. But man, if Eifert could have stayed healthy, like you said, that would have been great for the media. It would have been great for the on the field product. It would have been great for the interviews. He was just a dude. So if we're talking all time Bengals to have a beer with, Tyler Eifert's definitely got to be up there.
I mean, he still impacted the game, right? He was pretty much the straw to break the camel's back on players playing in the Pro Bowl. That was kind of like one of the last ones you saw get injured in the Pro Bowl. So, if anything, I mean, he was an awesome player, don't get me wrong. But, I think when he got injured in the Pro Bowl, the players were like, all right, we're kind of done with this.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to give him the injury-prone designation, which, his injuries were, freak injuries. He snapped his leg in half, and, there were so many different things that were just absolute freak injuries that weren't necessarily connected to one another. And ultimately, his back is what ended up putting him out. But
Yeah.
Yeah, if he could stay healthy, man.
Boy, these guys, though, they're so big. If you think about a given tackle, there's not one person bringing him down. So every time you catch the ball, 2, 3, 4 people are hitting you. And I think over time, that's why I think so many guys like Gronkowski, that's almost like a complete freak of nature. That he can withstand the punishment he did for that many years, and that's what it's funny you're bringing up Bowers, because it makes me wonder, because I think, yes, our tight end room has improved, but what if he's available? He could be a generational kind of tight end.
He's a little smaller though, right? I think he's 6'2", 6'3"?
He's
bigger
smaller
than-
than Gronk, but he's more of a pass catcher than anything. So
Yeah.
I think you're going to get the production on offense out of him from the passing, not necessarily the blocking. But
I think
again, at Georgia, I think he did block, right?
yeah, he's more of an all around guy. Every year, there's only a handful of the all around tight ends that come out. But if you look at a lot of the guys that have been drafted in the first round in recent years, TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, both Iowa guys. Hawkinson has been one of the best tight ends in the game for the last few years. And Fant, he just signed like a $10+
They went back to
million
Seattle.
deal. So
Did he go back to Seattle? Is that who he ended up signing with? He went from Denver to Seattle.
I can't remember. I don't remember who signed him. I just remember thinking, man, I'm not sure I want to pay $10 million for a tight end. So, like, eventually, if we get the right guy, then that's fine. But he has too many question marks, in my opinion, to take that giant shot on him. So,
But he went back to the Seahawks, and another guy, Kittle, like he's an Iowa guy.
Oh
too.
yeah, George Kittle.
Like that. I mean, just
what
big
are they
guys.
doing in Iowa with the tight ends that they
That's
just
tight end you, man.
Yeah.
Them and Notre Dame are tight end you. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's the next Iowa guy coming out? Maybe we just like pick him and call it good. Spend a fourth round pick on a guy nobody's ever heard of.
Well, and Sam Laporta was an Iowa guy too.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Wasn't Laporta like
he's
San Diego State?
Nope.
No, you're thinking of Dalton Kincaid from Utah.
Yeah.
That's
Kincaid.
who
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And Kincaid went a little earlier, and I've heard that the Bengals were in on Kincaid. So if he didn't get took, what was it, a few picks before us? We might have.
20s, I think.
Yeah, we might have took
18.
him. I think he might went 24. So that would have been interesting. I don't know. I just haven't watched. I've watched Brock Bowers, obviously, but he hasn't been a guy. I just want trenches pretty badly. So it's kind of like if we get him, and it'd be a nice shiny toy. But for me, man, Joe Burrow, these injuries kind of getting up there. How old is he? 27, going on 28. Like he's just not getting younger. So, and it's a good tackle class. So you can get somebody at that pick. But my thought is, if the Bengals didn't go tight end last year at 28, I just don't know. It just depends on how high they value Bowers in comparison to last year's tight end class, which was panned out to be a great class. And not every class is like that. Most of the time, tight ends take 2-3 years to develop. So that's what scares me a little bit. Like I want somebody that impacts us this year. That's why just kind of some of the defensive linemen that you might see in round 2. There's some guys, Braden, I don't know, his name's Fisk or Fisky. I don't know how.
Fisk. Yeah. Fisk.
I've heard it both ways. He's like 24. He performed extremely well. But then you have a guy like Michael Hall from Ohio State who is 20. I think he's 20 going on 21. And he's younger. I wouldn't say he had some crazy years at Ohio State or anything, but his performance at the combine, just different things throughout this offseason going in to be a pro, he's acted like a pro at a very young age. He's tested well and he showed it. So which one do you think can give you impact now? Do you think the 20-year-old can give you impact plays right now? Or do you think a guy like Fisk, who's 24, could maybe be a little better off the rip? Either way, I would be cool with probably either of those guys in the second, or a guy like TJ Tampa. If we're going to talk about some defensive players, maybe in the second round. I don't know if you guys watched him at all. I talked about him last week. I talked about him a lot, but that dude at cornerback, if he's there, is I think he's about 6'1", one in the 190s, so he's got pretty good size to him. He could compare. He would be a very good guy with a Cam Taylor Britt. They would hit well together. I would like that a lot. Do you guys have anybody?
In my opinion, you go trenches earlier on. I'm still on the train where you can get a budget cornerback for a year, like a Xavier Howard or someone along those lines where you don't pay him a lot, and you can go after a guy like Johnny Newton from Illinois, for example. Like I think that's a huge impact player. There's a huge need right now in the trenches, specifically on the defensive line, where we just haven't gotten the production out of guys that we've drafted in the past. I'd rather see that in the first round than anything. I don't think the Bengals are going to go tight end. And the reason I say that is because they re-signed T. Huddy, they re-signed Sample, and they brought in Gesicki, right? I mean, that's 3 tight ends. Most teams don't carry a 4th. I don't see them taking Brock Bowers, even if he is available. I see them taking a trenches guy, more than likely an offensive tackle, but I'd prefer a defensive tackle. And if it's not coming in the first, it's definitely coming in the second, to your point, Dusty.
So what do we think then because I heard they said Zach Taylor very rarely goes to anybody's pro day, but he went to Texas, and I'm hearing a lot of good things about that defensive tackle from Texas.
So they got Sweat and they got Byron Murphy, and
Murphy,
they got a lot of really good receivers too. So,
but they're talking for the 18th pick.
mhm.
So I found I was like, okay, because one of the things I think maybe like DJ Reader, like the last season or so, maybe he was injured a little more than we think. Because I remember in the beginning, like you knew he was in the game. It's like because you couldn't run the ball. And when I look back at last year's defense, it's like, okay, I'll give you the fact that we lost our safeties, but we couldn't stop the run last year either.
Mhm.
And it's like, so that's why that would be something that I'm going to be intrigued to see what they do with this pick, because I think they're really eyeing that kid from that Murphy from Texas.
Well, as Aaron knows, linebacker play is pretty dependent on your defensive line play. So having your gaps, covering up double teams, opening things up, being able to shoot through there. So the thought of another maybe guy that's not a 3-tech, but it's just going to be hard to find a DJ Reader replacement. Like I remember a play, I think maybe it was the Steelers 2 years ago, where he's being doubled. He slides and he's like sideways. He's got a guy kind of pushing him over, and he just uses all of his upper body strength somehow to shed that block. And he gets between two of them and still gets the tackle for maybe they might gain a yard, but I think it might got to the line of scrimmage. It's just like, man, that is you just don't see that every day. But there's not every team doesn't have a nose tackle like DJ Reader or any nose tackles, So the run, I think Lou's just gonna have to scheme things a little differently. But yeah. Byron Murphy's more the 3-tech, more the rusher guy. He's done pretty well against the run, but he's also has a beast beside him in Sweat. So that could make things a little different with him, I guess. But I like Byron Murphy, but they also have a couple good receivers, and they got that running back. They got what's his name, Brooks there. So I think having Zach there was pretty good, because we might take a couple Longhorns this year.
Yeah, I think him being there definitely proves a point that like there's plenty of talent down there to be considered. One of the things that it makes it hard for me to get on board with defensive tackle in the first round is that I can't really remember that many defensive tackles that have been taken in the first round that are like superstars. Like Vita Vea down for the Bucks, who's just like this Samoan 360-pound truck that runs like a 4.9 or something crazy like that. Like there are some dudes you just can't move that are absolute freaks. But I don't even remember where like DJ Reader was drafted, or for a long time, like the Eagles have had solid nose tackles, and like I mean a guy that we know well playing against Cam Hayward has been a really solid defensive tackle. It's like, where did all those guys get drafted? I don't know, but I don't really recall that many first-round defensive tackles that are like superstars. And the thing that gives me kind of pause and hesitation about drafting an offensive tackle is, I mean, Cedric Ogbuehi and Jake Fisher, and the Bengals are not good at identifying what makes a tackle talented in the NFL. Like, they're just not. They have better odds. Like, I mean, even Jonah, he was the 11th pick. He was solid, but would you ideally hope for more out of the 11th overall pick in any draft? I would probably say so.
Yep.
So I think that there are plenty of like there's plenty of teams that do it right, and there are plenty of guys that get picked in the end of the first and the beginning of the second round that end up being solid starters for their team. So hopefully we get lucky and we snag one of those guys if we do take a tackle. But there's like this offseason has been crazy all around the NFL. I think the draft is going to be as crazy as it's ever been with trades and teams moving up and down to try and fill the holes that they need to fill, which that could lead to a major letdown and we get to draft day and there's 0 trades in round 1 or something like that. But the Bengals have an opportunity to like maybe move up if there's a guy that they really like above everybody else. And if maybe there's 3 or 4 guys that they really like once it gets down to pick 18 and we're able to trade back a few picks and pick up an extra 4th round guy or 3rd round guy that we could take a swing at tackle or we could take a swing at a project defensive tackle that we like.
And if we do that, like you said, Chris, if we do trade back, let's just say to pick 22 or 24 and we get another 4th round pick or 3rd round pick, now we go and use that pick to move up in the 2nd and we got some love with that 3rd round pick. It was supposed to be a 6th round comp pick and it moved up to a 3rd. So we could maybe bundle that and get right outside the 2nd round or, high 2nd round pick. And we could get a guy like TJ Tampa that I was talking about at corner. We could get maybe like a AD Mitchell out of Texas, the wide receiver. He's about, I think he's 6'2", about 200 pounds. And he's got a
4.3.
really, what's that?
4.3 speed.
Yeah, he's got really good speed, really just an athlete that could really pair well with Jamar in this offense. And then plus planning with T going away. So say you trade back and you still get that D tackle, you get a Murphy or you get Johnny Newton, and then 2nd round you get that corner that you feel really good with, at least for me in TJ Tampa. Then you get the receiver. Like there's just so many options, and we'll still have another 7 picks. Like that's pretty good. And you get your guys, you identify them, you get them, and you feel good about it. You feel a lot better getting a guy that you want and you choose than a guy that maybe gets taken in front of you. Like that center did, and we took Billy Price, or there's just we trade back and we get Jackson Carman. Like that's not ideal, but if you're pretty sure there's 3-4 guys on the board that you really like and you move back 3 to 4 picks. Ross says Dusty for ruler of the jungle. Hey dude, I'll bring the crew with me. I definitely have to bring Pat and Aaron. They might they'll bring the Miller Lights onto the stage with us. We'll do the Tyler Eifert, and obviously got to bring Chris and Tony. The whole Bengals Army crew will be up there.
Hey, thanks for the comment, Ross. But I think we just found Dusty's burner account.
yeah. I'm pretty good at typing while I'm looking here, so I've gotten good at that. So that's Chris. You caught on to me, man. You caught on to me, dirty dog. But all right, you threw me off, man. I got that compliment. I was feeling good about myself. Then the insult comes in. So all right, wherever you guys pick up where I left off, I guess if you remember. No one remembers.
Yeah. Breaking news: they are putting the turf in right now at Paycor. So if anyone's wondering,
really?
It's going in right now. Yep.
Is it the same turf that's in MetLife?
Yeah, it's it's better than the worst turf that produces the most injuries, but it's not the preferred surface, obviously. It's going in though. They're doing a bunch of work. That's cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to take that over.
No,
that's good. Bring the news, man. Bring the news.
Yeah, it looks like from the picture at least, they're doing the turf, and then they've got the whole B deck seats like removed right now. So maybe they're doing some work there too.
Have you guys been down there to the banks lately, Pat or Aaron?
No, it was jumping today though for the Reds game for opening day.
Yeah. Did you guys happen to go to St. Taddy's Day?
Do what?
Did you guys go to St. Taddy's Day? That thing for the Cincy hats, and I seen you're wearing the repping the Cincy hat.
Yeah. No, usually we do stick around here and do some for St. Patrick's Day, but we split up this year. I went up to Columbus and met up with a couple of military buddies. And
yeah, that's right. I remember you telling me about that. I had a lot of people. I knew a lot of people that went down there. It'd been fun. I ended up having work and stuff, so couldn't go hang out with Ted. I'm sure he was disappointed that I wasn't there, but you know how it is. You guys want to? So we were talking a little bit of draft stuff. Do you guys want to do like a 3-round mock draft? We're at an hour and 10. Maybe do a few more minutes if you want. If not, we can close it out. But there's some players it'd be fun to get your guys' insight and see how we do, because me and Chris did one the other day and we went pretty offensive heavy, but I like the draft. I like that draft. I looked back on it and I was like, I still wouldn't complain about it. But you guys want to do that?
I'm gonna go ahead and jump off of here. I'm just gonna get ready. For whatever reason, I start rubbing my eyes. I'm starting to feel it a little bit, and started to get my eyes burning a little bit. So I'm gonna go hang out with my wife a little bit before we hit the sheets. But Pat, Aaron, thanks for coming on. It's been great talking with you guys. Hopefully, I'll see you down at some games this year. So thanks again for coming on. Hooday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you, Chris. What about you guys? Aaron, Aaron and Pat, you guys got a little bit of time, or where you guys at?
Dude, I hate doing this, but I got an old fart with me right now, so we might be turning in as well, to be honest with you.
Hey, that's cool. What about you, Tony? You got a minute to do a mock draft, and we can send these guys out.
Let's Dusty, if you don't mind, I'm gonna call it quits as well. Let's do a mock draft on the next one. And guys, thanks for coming on, man. It was awesome. Looking forward to more games this year, of course.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks
seriously.
for having us. That was a lot of fun.
Alrighty, yeah.
For the season this year, and we'll make sure you guys get to a game or two, and we'll link up there.
Heck yeah. Yeah, we appreciate it, man. Whenever you guys want to come back on, it's fun, man. I know you guys were a little skeptical about jumping on. We might grill you with some hard questions or whatnot, but we appreciate it. Pat, man, always a pleasure talking to you and talking some of the history of the Bengals and getting some of that insight, man. That's awesome. And yeah, I love that. So whenever you guys want to jump back on, more than welcome. Did you guys have a good time? Did you like it?
For sure.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we'll head out of here. We have 44 people listening to us. We've kind of stuck around that number all night, so we're getting more listeners and more people join us in the chat. So we're going to continue to try to be a little more consistent, get some more videos out there, talk a little bit more Bengals football, and it's always fun. I know we love doing it. So you guys have anything to add? I know Aaron and Pat, you guys want to put your Twitter names out there and where people can reach you. And I know you're at Lot 1 all the time. You guys are who we hang out with. So if anybody sees them down there at Lot 1, make sure give them a hooday and bullshit with them a little bit. I know they love talking ball.
Heck yeah.
Yep. That's all I'll say. You can catch us in Lot 1 when the season starts.
There you go.
So.
All righty. What about you, Tony? Any closing thoughts?
No, man, it was awesome. Thanks again. Looking forward to more Lot 1 fun. And it's like March comes around, you just like crave football, right?
Yeah.
It's like right around this time. I'm like, man, I can't wait to get back. So looking forward to more shenanigans in Lot 1 here soon. So hooday.
Sounds good.
Yes, sir. Hooday. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Once again, thanks to Aaron and Pat. Appreciate it, man.